Namaste and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. US billionaire who's Hungarian born or has Hungarian roots, George Soros, has come out in the open with his intent to go ahead and take on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because from George Soros' perspective, he is a nationalist. Ladies and gentlemen, the West's definition of nationalist and how we look at the word nationalist is very different. They look at the word nationalist from the prism of fascism, and it's driven through Hitler's ideology. But for us, nationalist or nationalism is another way of looking at being a patriot, patriotism, putting the country first. It's not about only my country and no one else. It's about always Bharat first. That means for me personally as an individual or every Bharatiya, Bharat comes first. Now, that's one aspect. The other point is that he has a political leaning and a thought process, and he believes that India is not democratic. Is that not an outright insult of the mandate of the people of this country, who of their own free will, exercising their own free will, have elected a political party and also a leader to lead them over the past 8 years? These are all questions that remain. But here's what the billionaire has come out and said. He has made the charge that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is silent on the Adani crisis, and that he believes that he will have to answer foreign investors. Is the nonagenarian not aware that only yesterday or the day before, the leaders of 3 big countries thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the $80 billion plus deal with Airbus and Boeing is actually going to generate jobs in nations, one of which is also Mr. Soros' home now. So if investors were not wanting to invest in India, would India have the kind of growth that it has? And if India is not growing and if India is not prospering, would India have the kind of money to invest in developed nations abroad? Now, are these facts not there in his cognizance, or he does what, or has he decided to ignore them because he believes that PM Modi has to go? India is currently not a democracy. Institutional reforms have not happened. That's his opinion. Do you agree with such an opinion living in Bharat? We leave that to you. But here's what the government has come out and done. The government, or the principal party leading the government at the center, that's the BJP, has come all guns blazing. So Union Minister Smriti Irani took the stage and then attacked George Soros. He triggered a fresh storm where he accused PM Modi of crony capitalism. The centre hit back and said, intend to demonize and break India. The Modi and Adani are close allies. Mr. Soros has made this charge. Can he prove it in a court of law with facts? We have to wait and watch if somebody asks him to prove this charge. But the centre has hit back saying that Soros' imperialist mindset now stands exposed. PM Modi is silent on the Adani crisis is what George Soros' charge, irrespective of the fact on this very platform, on your channel, you have the country's finance minister who has responded on the Adani issue. That has escaped his attention. But the agent of regime change and wants a favourable government is what the centre has turned around and said, that he is here to topple a particular government which is elected by a majority of the voters in our country. Modi must answer foreign investors. He invested $1 million to target Modi. That's the charge of the centre. The centre has also said that democracy in India is strong and resilient. It's not an elected autocracy as some people want to coin it. On what terms, we do not know. We are vibrant with more than 44 parties somewhere or the other part of government within the states. And of course, at the centre, expect a democratic revival in India is another point of view that Soros is saying, that he believes there is no democracy in our country. So plenty of charges that have been made by Mr. George Soros, but the centre coming out all guns blazing, like I said, not wanting to take it lying down anymore. Listen into what Smriti Irani ji said.
George Soros, an international entrepreneur who hedges bets against many countries, has now declared his ill intentions to intervene in the democratic processes of India. Such is a time where the imperialistic intentions of an entrepreneur come to light, brings an onslaught to the economy of India, all so that he can personally. Those who support Mr. Soros need to know that democracy has prevailed in India and will continue to do so.
Now let me tell you George Soros' links in Bharat. First up is an NGO called Namati. Now Namati is based in Washington. George Soros and Nobel laureate Amartya Sen are part of the NGO's advisory council. Just a reminder of Amartya Sen, who has said as recently as January 2023, while referring to, I quote, an atmosphere of intolerance, unquote, in India, he said it won't last long. In the past, he has asked people to come together to vote the BJP out. Then, there is the link to Harsh Mandar. He is the head of a research group and is also a social activist, probably best known for being part of the National Advisory Council under the UPA. Harsh Mandar has served as an advisory board member at OSF from 2020 to 2022. Remember, Harsh Mandar is linked to violence around Jamia in December 2019 and also the anti-CAA protests into 2019 and 2020. Basharat Peer is a writer and author. He served as the Open Society Fellow between 2009 and 2010. Basharat Peer in 2010 wrote, and I quote, Indian troops killing Kashmiri protesters. Lawyers Collective, an NGO headed by Indira Jaising and Anand Grover. FCRA license of the Lawyers Collective was cancelled over donations from George Soros. They allegedly received donations of over 4 crore rupees. But the Congress's stand on George Soros seems to be either divided or somewhere on the lines of confused. We'll tell you why. Congress media cell head Jairam Rameshji tactfully tried to distance the party from George Soros and his designs. He said that whether the Adani issue sparks a democratic revival in the country depends entirely on the grand old party and other opposition parties, and it has nothing to do with the billionaire investor George Soros. But another party face and close aide of Rahul Gandhi, Praveen Chakravarti, seemed to promote George Soros' views. And when it comes to the Gandhi sign himself, Rahul Gandhi was seen with George Soros' aide Salil Shetty during his Bharat Jodo Yatra. But this isn't the first time George Soros has spoken on India and also taken a position against Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In January 2020, George Soros pledged $1 billion for Global University. University was formed to, quote, fight nationalists, unquote, which they may term as authoritarian. George Soros has accused Prime Minister Narendra Modi of creating Hindu nationalist state. That's his interpretation. And he said this in the past. Indian government had put the OSF, the Open Society Foundation, on watch list in 2016. The foreign donor was put under the watch list or prior permission category in 2016, but it moved the High Court only in Jan 2020. Jan 2020, soon after the developments of August 2019 and the 3-4 instances which came to fore, big laws which were brought in, and then they moved court. But is George Soros a threat only to India? Or has he meddled with affairs of nations across the world? In November 2015, Russia has banned George Soros under the OSF, and George Soros funded OSF, saying it posed a threat to both state security and the Russian constitution. In December 2017, the Pakistan government accused George Soros Foundation and other groups of anti-state activities, forcing them to shut down their operations there as well. In November 2018, OSF closed its operations in Turkey after President Erdogan said Soros was trying to divide and destroy nations. In 2018, OSF closed its operations and moved operations out of Budapest after Hungarian parliament passed a Stop Soros law that makes it illegal to help undocumented migrants. So, George Soros has meddled in the affairs in various nations. He has an agenda and he has come out in the open about it, sparking a storm. But is the BJP's allegation that there is a Congress Soros tango at play, does that hold merit? Let's get into the face-off. Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, is with us. Saira Shah Halim, writer and activist, is also with us. Namaste and Jai Hind. Thank you very, very much. Meddling in the affairs of a country, he's put out his cards openly. He's been on the watch list since 2016. Why is the BJP waking up to George Soros now, Sanju Verma?
You know, Anand, let's be very clear that in June 2020, when George Soros actually petitioned the Supreme Court after the Modi government, said that his Open Society Foundation, which was founded by George Soros in 1984, is not complying with FCRA norms and is under a watch. George Soros moved the apex court in India, saying that he is being targeted and vilified. To say that the Modi government has woken up now, incorrect. Point number one. Point number two, if you are doing business in India, whether you are an NGO or a commercial enterprise, you have to abide by Indian laws. George Soros has repeatedly failed to do that, even in his own country, Hungary. As we all know, before becoming this American billionaire, he was a Hungarian Jew. I just have this to say. Look at Harsh Mandar, who was a part of the advisory board of Open Society Foundation, which is basically a George Soros-run firm. And Harsh Mandar was also, during the Congress-led UPA, a part of the NAC, the National Advisory Council, which was the highest apex body in terms of the Congress organizational affairs. So there is a clear link. Harsh Mandar is the common link between the Congress party's NAC and George Soros, his firm, Open Society Foundation. Now, as you pointed out, be it Indira Jaisingh's firm, Lawyers Collective, be it Namati, a so-called NGO run by Amartya Sen, which also has a link with George Soros, or for that matter, Indian American Muslim Council. If you remember, in Jan 2022, Hamid Ansari, the ex-vice president who served India as a vice president for 10 long years, he attended a meet organized by IAMC, an Indian American Muslim Council. Who are its backers? Its backers and funders are Jamaat-e-Islami, Lashkar-e-Toiba and ISIS. And Indian American Muslim Council under the UAPA in India has been banned. And what did Hamid Ansari say? Hamid Ansari says minorities in India have no rights. Democracy has flown out of the window. And Hamid Ansari is a career congressman. So again, you cannot deny the Congress and Soros links.
But what is the IAMC link with George Soros?
The IAMC link with George Soros is this, that IAMC also funds a body called United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, and Anurima Bhargav, who is currently the vice president of USCIRF, is an ex-George Soros fellow. She used to work for the Open Society Foundation before she moved to USCIRF, and USCIRF has very close links with Indian American Muslim Council, which in turn has very close links with Hamid Ansari, who in turn has close links and continues to be a Congress acolyte.
So everybody is linked to each other, but there are people in social life and people in public life can wear multiple hats. Does that mean that each hat has to be linked with the other? Let me just bring in Saira Shah Halim, allow her opening remarks, and then we can take the debate forward. Yes, Saira ji.
Yeah, hi Anand ji. Good evening.
Namaste. Are there entities in India who are being funded by George Soros or who are towing the narrative that he wants to set for Bharat?
See, I think it's really amusing that when any personality, a billionaire or somebody who, is concerned about world affairs, talks about corruption, talks about financial scams, the entire Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson are out there just to defend a scam or just to defend any corruption charges. Now tell me one thing. How does a simple statement that George Soros said, that turmoil engulfing Gautam Adani's business empire may open a door to a democratic revival in the country, how is that an anti-India attack? Or how is he an enemy of India? He's simply expressing an opinion. And here we are having long explanations from cabinet ministers on how he did this, how he did that, how he went into the world affairs of India. I mean, right from Rihanna to climate change activists to Greta Thunberg, BBC, everybody has become, suddenly interested in India. I think it's a little far-fetched and people are hyperventilating and imagining things too far. Because here I'm repeating again, whether it is George Soros, whether it is BBC, whether it is Greta Thunberg, whether it's Rihanna, everybody is entitled to an opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't think that our country is so small that any foreign power can come and undermine its democracy or try to belittle us or try to weaken our democracy.
But what happens is, I welcome that. I welcome that thought, and I welcome the fact that India is so strong and so big that one entity cannot do anything. But when there are people within our own country want to latch on with such entities and not challenge the misinformation, when you believe it is okay for a British national to sit in Gujarat and pass an opinion about what's happening in our country and go and push forward a report, and nobody questions who are they to come into our country and do a report, with whose permission did they do it, then there are questions that come to mind. But Sanju Verma, how is one entity going to define the shape of this country? So that means that the voter of this country is pointless. Let's always let the government focus on the George Soroses of the world. Why focus on the voters of this country? Why focus on those? So if George Soros says there is no democracy in India, does that mean there is no democracy in India? Why give him so much bhav?
Anand, the point here is not about giving bhav. The point here is simply this, that एक लक्ष्मण रेखा होती है, as long as you don't cross that Lakshman Rekha, it is fine. Let us be very clear. Be it the Pegasus matter, be it the Shaheen Bagh riots, be it the Bhima Koregaon riots, be it coming out with a report saying that India is as autocratic as Pakistan and the economy is worse than Bangladesh. This was a report by Human Rights Watch, which is a firm funded by George Soros. It is a self-declared Human Rights Watch firm. It clearly says there is no democracy in India. George Soros has committed in June 2020 saying that a nationalist government led by Prime Minister Modi, it is time to uproot it. So the point is that this is a man who has meddled in the international affairs of various countries. Point number two, how can it be a coincidence that George Soros and Shashi Tharoor are great friends is a statement by Shashi Tharoor in 2009. George Soros and Harsh Mandar, who was a part of Sonia Gandhi's NAC, are great friends. George Soros and Indira Jaising, who has always written, long stories about Modi government's undemocratic so-called ethos, are great friends. How is it that George Soros and Indira Jaising's husband, Mr. Grover, are great friends? How is it that George Soros also backed Sweden's V-Den report in 2022, which said India mein to democracy khatre mein hai? It is the same George Soros who funded a report in 2021, which was carried out by the US-based Freedom House entity, which again said democracy khatre mein hai. Are you telling Anand that we should simply sit quiet and twiddle our thumbs while this man, who himself in a famous interview, 10 seconds, in 1998, on 60 Minutes CBS to Steve Croft, he said, I am a businessman. My only motive is to make money. I do not care about the social consequences of what I do commercially. This is George Soros on record to CBS.
Correct.
Anchor Steve Croft. So why should we not call out the bluff of this man?
No. Calling him out is okay. Calling him out, you're calling him out. But are you actually countering him by calling him out? Because he's funding what you are alleging to be academic misinformation and pushing out a particular narrative and trying to prop it up with certain aspects of credibility, because he's saying, oh, this report says this report says the same thing, I am saying the same thing, and 10 other people say the same thing. He said that's my set agenda. So, Saira Shah Alim, my question here, before I come back to you, Saira Shah Alim, the simple point is, are there people in our country who for a few dollars are willing to sing a tune which they know is wrong, but it's going to get them money and get them limelight and get them audiences across platforms across the world and make them big stars?
I'll just say one thing. Is it a crime to question Mr. Adani's financial scam?
Not at all.
It is very apparent who Mr. Adani is linked to. I mean, who is the person who is protecting him, or rather, who is the person who has been his godfather all along? So I think it is really disturbing the BJP spokesperson just because Mr. Soros asked some tough questions and right through all his.
Let me ask you something. Do you believe that Bharat can do without private entrepreneurs?
And I think that is so tragic.
Saraji,
It is the first sign of
apologies for
government
interrupting you.
that's what I would say.
My question to you is, do you believe that Bharat can do without private entrepreneurs, without the private sector? So every time the private sector does well, they do well only because of crony capitalism or because they are hand in gloves with the government. So is that what you're going to say about the Tatas? Is that what you're going to say about Wipro? Is that what you're going to say about the Birlas? Is that what you're going to say about the Ambanis, the Adanis, any and every private sector which has created jobs, created wealth and helped in the progress of this country? Are they all because of patronage of the government? So are you grudging Indian corporate its growth?
No.
Are you grudging Indian corporate and the Indian private sector?
I'm simply saying, see, I'll tell you what, aren't we as responsible, conscious citizens?
Correct. You please tell me what has happened in the stock market, and that too what has happened because of a report created internationally and the shorts in the New York Stock Exchange and its ripple down effect. How is that a scam, and where is the charge to prove that it is a scam, and where is the charge to prove that it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi who is protecting Gautam Adani? My point is, please make the charges. Where are you backing it? And who is and I'm telling you, ma'am, shouldn't it irk you and shouldn't it irk me? It's our business internally. But who is a George Soros to turn around and tell me that my vote doesn't count? Who's a George Soros to tell you that your vote doesn't count? Here's a George Soros to tell you in what kind of a country we are living in. He doesn't easily even come to India, ma'am.
I get you, Anand. If you could just allow me to speak. Anand, all fair. What I'm saying is, here, why did PM Modi campaign for Mr. Trump? Abki baar, Trump ki sarkar. Isn't that meddling in the internal affairs of the United States?
No, Trump.
I mean, here everybody has a right to opinion. Everybody has an opinion about world affairs. And here the Hindenburg report clearly exposing Mr. Adani's financial scams. Look at it, the stock market reports. Look at how he's
But my point is, ma'am, Saraji, just like you have an opinion and you will publish a report. Saraji, just like you have an opinion, Hindenburg has put there a report, but they have also come back. No, but the Adanis have also. Please understand.
It is not an opinion.
See, I'll tell you. Are you going to be blinded that my opinion matters? Are you trying to say that your opinion matters, mine doesn't? Only your point of view matters, mine doesn't. If somebody, you're making a charge at somebody and that person has come with a defense, are you not going to give any credence to that defense? Are you going to also turn around and say that our financial watchdog, our banks, which are in a far more robust state today than they were even 8 years ago, they don't have the common sense to say how much they are lending and they will put the financial health. So that's a different argument altogether. I'm just saying we should sort this out amongst ourselves. Who's an international person, a billionaire sitting somewhere else? Is he going to decide what we're going to do as a country? And 1 minute. I have to wind up. I'm way over. But Sanju Verma, here's the question. You're sitting, or the government sitting there and lampooning George Soros in a press conference, or you sitting here on the right stand. Is that going to sort matters out? Or are you going to counter narrative setting with a counter narrative setting or with facts? What are you going to do to go ahead and tell the world that George Soros has been taking everyone for a royal ride? Banning him, is it going to stop him from doing what he's doing?
You know, Anand, let me be very clear that narrative setting and, ensuring that the intellectual cover fire that is given by the likes of Soros and Hamid Ansari to terror organizations like Indian American Muslim Council. We need to fight the narrative bit. We will also take concrete action on the ground. And let me tell one more thing to the other panelist who was saying, a Hindenburg report is the gospel of truth. And, Adani is a criminal. Let us be very clear. There is the RBI, there is the SEBI, there is the registrar of companies to see if stock market or company related violations have been done. I have a problem when people talk about Adani but don't realize that between 2004 and 2014, when the Congress was in power, Adani's stock price went from 24 rupees to 497, which is
like I said, ma'am,
2000% jump.
Sanjuji.
Wait, Anand, please.
Sanjuji, you have made this point. You have made this point in the past. Please hear me out. No, it is not about how much their stock price went up, ma'am. It is a fact that we need the private sector.
Adani made bigger gains under the
No,
Congress.
there is no
His
logic
stock
to
price
this.
went up by 2.1%.
Let's not. For somebody who's come from the private sector into politics, may I request to Sanjuji, let us come back and understand this, that Bharat needs the private sector. Bharat needs the private sector to create the jobs, create the wealth, create the opportunity and fuel the growth. No, my point is, see, we can have our politics. I have to wind up. My simple point is criticizing and calling out George Soros is not enough. If you believe that he is setting an agenda against this country and its leader, then we have to do something concrete about it. Either take him to court, sue him, or go ahead and put out a narrative that doesn't defame Hindutva, that doesn't defame patriotism the Bharat way, that doesn't defame or perhaps allow a narrative which we believe is not helping us overall. I have to move on, ladies and gentlemen. Big development in Maharashtra. The Shinde camp is celebrating because the Election Commission has ruled that the bow and arrow and the party name belongs not to Uddhav Thackeray but to Eknath Shinde's Bala Sahib Shiv Sena. It's a blow after blow for Uddhav Thackeray. The first setback that's come, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Mahavikas Aghadi Sarkar falls after Eknath Shinde leads the rebellion. The second setback, Election Commission has said that the Shinde faction is the true claimant of the Shiv Sena because as per the constitution of the party, that's where the ruling has come. Who's got the numbers, who's got the mandate, who's got the maximum number of support and MLAs within the party and elected representatives, they should hold. That's what is being said. Party's bow and arrow symbol has been retained by the Shinde camp, the name also. Let's listen into what Eknath Shinde had to say, some other reactions too.
चुनाव आयोग ने जो निर्णय दिया है उसका मैं स्वागत करता हूं। ये लोकशाही का विजय है। हिंदू हृदय सम्राट बाला साहेब ठाकरे जी, धर्मवीर आनंद दिघे जी, इनके विचारों का विजय है। और मेरे साथ मैंने जो भूमिका ली, उसके साथ जो 50 विधायक और 13 सांसद, हजारों लाखों कार्यकर्ता पदाधिकारी शिव सैनिक, ये इनका विजय है और इसलिए मैं चुनाव आयोग को धन्यवाद देता हूं।
जिस बात का हमें डर था आखिर वही फैसला आया। हम शुरू से कह रहे हैं कि चुनाव आयोग पर हमें विश्वास नहीं है, क्योंकि जब मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चल रहा है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में दोनों पक्षों की तरफ से बहस अभी जारी है, कोई अंतिम निर्णय नहीं आया, लेकिन आनंद फानन में चुनाव आयोग ने दर्शा दिया है कि चुनाव आयोग भाजपा का एजेंट के रूप में काम करती है, केंद्र सरकार के अधीन काम करती है। किसी पार्टी को आप तोड़ सकते हैं, आप उसे धोखा दे सकते हैं, लेकिन पार्टी किसकी है किसकी नहीं है यह फैसला तो न्यायालय में होता है ना, न्याय देवता करते हैं। जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में मामला विचाराधीन है, वहां पे बात अभी चली रही है। आपने आनंद फानन में अभी ये डिक्लेयर कर दिया कि एकनाथ शिंदे की पार्टी है और चुनाव चिन्ह तीर धनुष उनका है, इसका हम निषेध करते हैं।
Now we got big news coming through. It's an exclusive here on the Right Stand. After getting the party symbol and party name, Eknath Shinde will now first conduct an internal party election. Uddhav Thackeray's term ended on the 30th of Jan as he had been elected party president for 5 years. Mayuresh Ganpate of News 18 joins us with more details. Yes, Mayuresh.
Absolutely, we know that on last 30th Jan, Uddhav Thackeray's term as a party president got ended, but the election commission didn't allow them or didn't give them any kind of permission to conduct the party internal party election. That's why Uddhav Thackeray was still the Shiv Sena party president. But now, after getting the symbol as well as the party name, the first move which the Shinde will be doing, that he will be holding the internal party election, in which with the support of all these MLAs, MPs as well as the leaders, he will get elected as a party president so that he can have a hold on the entire party and the party mechanism.
Well, thank you for your input. So the fight for the real Sena, Shinde Sena gets the bow and arrow. What does this mean? What does this imply? Let's go across to Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, and she's a Mumbaikar herself. She's been following these developments very closely. Abhishek Agnihotri, Shiv Sena leader, is also with us. Namaste and thank you very, very much. Now, what does this imply? The Uddhav camp, Sanju Verma, says that the EC has jumped the gun. They have called the EC or the Election Commission an agent of the central government.
I think the powers of the Election Commission are properly outlined right from Article 324 to Article 329 of the Constitution. The Election Commission is an autonomous, statutory, constitutional body which does not owe allegiance to the ruling dispensation of the day, the Modi government in this case. So Uddhav Thackeray's reckless allegations mean nothing. वो जो एक हिंदी में कहावत है, खिसियानी बिल्ली खंबा नोचे, Uddhav Thackeray ranting against the Election Commission reminds me of that. Let me just say one very important thing which went against Uddhav Sena. The reason why the bow and arrow symbol has gone to Eknath Shinde is simple. First, the technical reason. The Shiv Sena got 56 seats in the 2019 Maharashtra Assembly elections.
Right.
Today, the tally of Uddhav Sena has been reduced to 1-5. 15 MLAs only. Out of 56, only left with 15, which means 73% of the Uddhav Sena MLAs have abandoned Uddhav Sena because of lack of faith in Uddhav Thackeray's leadership. When more than 50%, 50 of your MLAs leave you, the Election Commission actually suo moto has the right to take away your symbol and your logo. The logo of Uddhav Sena is tiger and the symbol obviously was bow and arrow. But in this case, not 50, not 50%, 73% of Uddhav Thackeray's MLAs have left him. And rather than taking a suo moto action and saying we will give the bow and arrow symbol to Eknath Shinde, the matter was discussed, deliberated for months together. It is only now that a discussion and a deliberation thereafter, a decision has been reached. And I also want to say that there is a moral aspect to it which is not technical.
Right.
Always, repeatedly, Uddhav Thackeray has said that we need to keep the bow and arrow symbol because I am the true inheritor of Bala Saheb's legacy. And remember, Anand, Bala Saheb used to be called Hindu Hriday Samrat right since 1966 when
Correct.
Shiv Sena was originally formed. But tell me, taking no action against the perpetrators who lynched the Palghar sadhus in 2020, was that an act of somebody who believed in his father's Hindu Hriday Samrat philosophy? The riots in Malegaon, Nanded, Yavatmal, where Hindus were targeted. Was that a classic example of not of Hindu phobia?
Let us try and steer it back to the technical aspect because that's what the Election Commission would have considered when they would have awarded this. Now, Abhishek Agnihotri, how would you respond to the fact that the numbers were with Eknath Shinde? The rule book and the constitution of the Shiv Sena itself defined who should have the party symbol and the name.
अभी जो स्पोक पर्सन हमारे सामने बैठे हुए थे, सबसे सर्वप्रथम तो मैं आपके चैनल के दर्शकों को नमस्कार करना चाहता हूँ।
नमस्ते।
अभी पीछे कुछ मैडम बोल रही थी इसके बारे में कि उनके पास नंबर्स ऑफ एमएलएस एंड नंबर ऑफ एमपीज क्या है, तो शायद उनका जो है थोड़ा कुछ इनको करेक्ट करना चाहिए। शायद बिना पढ़े आ गई है कि इनको जानकारी नहीं, या जो है बेवजह ऐसे वाद विवाद जो है उनका पैदा करने की स्थिति में वो अपने आप को ज्यादा अच्छा। पहली बात 67 एमएलए से मात्र 40 एमएलए का समर्थन जो है वो एकनाथ शिंदे के पास है, जैसा उन्होंने कहा है। और वो समर्थन ग्राउंड पे है, ये किसी छुपा नहीं है, पूरा भारत जानता है। भारत नहीं, मतलब मुझे लग रहा है कि सोशल मीडिया का दौर है और कहीं ना कहीं जिस प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम काम करते हैं और ये जैसे लोकतंत्र की दुहाई दे की और लोकतंत्र हत्या की जा रही है भारत देश में, ये किसी छूटा नहीं, कोई ऐसा नहीं अनजान हो इस बात से।
73% सपोर्ट अगर एक नेता के पास है तो फिर मैंडेट किसके पास होना चाहिए?
नहीं, सुनिए ना, इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया को इतनी जल्दबाजी क्या थी जब नेक्स्ट ट्यूसडे को, मंगलवार को 21 फरवरी सीजीआई जो पांच सदस्यीय टीम थी, सीजीआई जो डीवाई चंद्रचूड़ हैं, वो जिसके अध्यक्ष थे, उनकी अध्यक्षता में कोई 5 जजों की बेंच बैठी थी और 7 जजों की बेंच।
अच्छा, मैं आपसे एक बात पूछूं अभिषेक जी, मुझे बताइए, क्योंकि आप केस के तथ्य को जानते हैं, तो मैं आपसे ये पूछ रहा हूँ, क्या सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इलेक्शन कमीशन को कहा था कि जब तक हम फैसला नहीं सुनाते आप फैसला मत सुनाइए?
इतनी जल्दबाजी क्या थी? वही तो
अरे मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ, क्या कोर्ट ने कोई हिदायत दी थी इलेक्शन कमीशन को कि जब तक हम फैसला नहीं सुनाते आप नहीं सुना सकते?
सबकी अपनी सीमाएं हैं, कोर्ट बिल्कुल हिदायत नहीं दे सकता। इलेक्शन
कोर्ट नहीं दे सकता, कोर्ट नहीं दे सकता तो इलेक्शन कमीशन अपना काम जब चाहे कर सकती है। वो आज सुना है, कल सुना है, परसों सुना है, वो इलेक्शन कमीशन की मर्जी। आप क्या सुप्रीम कोर्ट को कहेंगे कि इलेक्शन कमीशन को बोलिए, इलेक्शन कमीशन फैसला नहीं सुनाती तब तक आप अपनी जजमेंट मत सुनाइए।
स्वायत्त एजेंसियां हैं, क्या वो फ्रीलांसर काम कर पा रही है? ये बात आप अपने चैनल के माध्यम से पूरा सर्वे आप करा लीजिए, ईडी हो, सीबीआई हो, या यहाँ तक इलेक्शन कमीशन।
अभी तो बात उद्धव ठाकरे जी का प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस शुरू होने वाला है। संजू जी कुछ कहना चाहती है। संजू जी,
मैं आपके साथ चैनल के माध्यम से अर्थों से बोल रहा हूँ, तो क्या ये बात इलेक्शन कमीशन जो बात उन्होंने अपने डिसीजन को सुरक्षित रखा है, क्या ये बात इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया को नहीं पता?
इलेक्शन कमीशन, देखिए आपने कहा इलेक्शन कमीशन स्वायत्त है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का अपनी गरिमा को नहीं लांघेगा। आपने ये भी नहीं कहा कि आपने कोई गुजारिश की थी सुप्रीम कोर्ट से कि इलेक्शन कमीशन को स्टे के फैसले पर स्टे सुनाए। उद्धव ठाकरे जी बोल रहे हैं। संजू जी प्लीज वेट जी, लेट्स गो टू।
मैं ये कह रहा हूं,
आपल्या देशाच्या स्वातंत्र्याचा अमृत महोत्सव सुरू असताना आपल्या माननीय पंतप्रधानांनी एकदा लाल किल्ल्यावरून घोषणा करायला हरकत नाही की 75 वर्षाचं स्वातंत्र्य आता संपलेलं आहे आणि आता देशातली लोकशाही संपवून आम्ही बेबंदशाहीला सुरुवात केली आहे.
On the occasion of our Azadi's Amrit Mahotsav, our Prime Minister did not address from the ramparts of the Red Fort that the era of democracy is over and it will be only one particular autocratic rule that will start. That's what Uddhav Thackeray is alleging.
आपल्या दबावाखाली कशी येईल याच्याबद्दल गेले काही दिवस केंद्रीय कायदा मंत्री बोलतायत, राज्यसभेचे अध्यक्ष बोलतायत, त्यांना न्यायमूर्ती नेमण्याचे सुद्धा आता अधिकार पाहिजे. मग असंच जर काही चालू राहिलं तर मी जे मगाशी म्हटलं की देशातली लोकशाही संपलेली आहे.
Uddhav Thackeray saying that the kind of tonality or the words utterances about the fact that have been used by voices within the government and what is going out, the way it is building up to, leads me to believe that democracy in our country is over.
तो अत्यंत अनपेक्षित आहे.
And whatever has happened right now is unexpected.
ही लढाई सर्वोच्च न्यायालयात सुद्धा सुरू आहे.
For the last 6 months this fight has been going on in the Honorable Supreme Court.
आणि मधल्या काळात मी आपल्याशी बोललो होतो की तो निकाल जोपर्यंत लागत नाही तोपर्यंत निवडणूक आयोगाने कोणताही निकाल देऊ नये.
So the idea is that till the time that there is a judgment by the court and the court decides, don't take any decision.
निवडून आलेल्या लोकप्रतिनिधींच्या आकड्यांवरती ठरवायला लागलो.
So that was what was expected, requested of the election commission.
निवडून आलेले आमदार खासदार विकत घेऊन पक्षाचा सर्व होऊ शकतो, देशाचा पंतप्रधान किंवा राज्याचा मुख्यमंत्री सुद्धा होऊ शकतो, हे सुद्धा मी मागे बोललेलो आहे.
Can somebody just take away the representatives, support elected representatives and then corner the party and corner and become chief minister, prime minister of the country, or should they have mandate of the entire cadre and the voter base?
की 24 तासात ही फाईल हल्ली कशी आणि यांची नेमणूक झाली कशी? मला आता असं वाटायला लागलेलं आहे की जसं न्यायाधीश नेमण्याची एक प्रक्रिया असते तशीच प्रक्रिया आता निवडणूक आयुक्त नेमण्यासाठी सुद्धा विरोधी पक्षांना सोबत घेऊन सुरुवात करण्याची आता गरज लागलेली आहे.
So just like in the courts you have the ability or you have, it is compulsory to listen to both sides of the argument and there has to be hearings. The election commission should also now conduct hearings.
झालेली आहे मिंडे गटाची आणि त्यांना मांडीवर घेतलेल्या जगातल्या सगळ्यात मोठ्या पक्षाची जी एक दयनीय अवस्था झालेली आहे, त्यांना स्वतः लढण्याची हिंमत नाहीये. मी अनेकदा त्यांना आव्हान दिलेलं आहे की हिंमत असेल तर निवडणुका घ्या, अगदी लोकसभा पासून महापालिका तुम्ही एकत्र घ्या. ती निवडणूक घेण्याची काही त्यांची हिंमत झाली नाही. आता मला अशी शक्यता वाटायला लागलेली आहे की ज्या पद्धतीने त्यांनी
those who have tried to usurp the party, usurp power and the place do not have the ability to come out and fight alone individually. They have taken the support of another party. I challenge them to come out and fight on their own during the elections, be it the Mumbai Mahapalika, be it the Lok Sabha, be it the Vidhan Sabha elections, come out and fight on their own.
उभी करायची आहे. ते जे काही त्यांचं स्वप्न आहे ते स्वप्न धनुष्यबाण त्यांना देऊन ते साकार करण्याचा प्रयत्न कदाचित करतील. न सांगावं, कदाचित उद्या आमची मशाल चिन्ह जे आहे चिन्ह ते सुद्धा ते घेतील. पण मशाल आता पेटलेली आहे. जेवढा अन्याय यंत्रणांचा वापर करून तुम्ही आमच्यावरती कराल त्या प्रत्येक अन्यायाचा बदला महाराष्ट्रातली जनता घेतल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही याची मला खात्री आहे. ठीक आहे, आजच्या पुरतं तरी त्यांनी धनुष्यबाण चोरलेलं आहे. ते धनुष्यबाण कागदावरचं आहे. पण जे दुसरं खरं धनुष्यबाण आहे ते आजही माझ्याकडे आणि ते कायमचं माझ्याकडे राहणार आहे, ते तुम्हाला मी आता दाखवतोय. एकूण काय की अनेकांना असं वाटलं असेल,
You may have got the symbol today, but the real bow and arrow lies with me, says Uddhav Thackeray. The election commission's decision was unexpected.
दिवसापासून तेव्हा सुद्धा आमच्याकडे एक निशाणी नव्हती. हा धनुष्यबाण ज्याचा उल्लेख मी वारंवार करतो तोच हा धनुष्यबाण आहे. त्याच्यावरती कुंकू सुद्धा आपण पाहू शकता. हा शिवसेना प्रमुखांच्या देवारातला आज सुद्धा आमच्या पूजेत असलेला धनुष्यबाण आहे.
This is the bow and arrow, the real bow and arrow. This is the bow and arrow with which I have done perform puja today. This was in the puja room of Balasaheb Thackeray itself. This is the real bow and arrow, and that remains with me.
तो आमच्या पूजेमधला आहे, तो पूजेतच राहणार, तो पूजेतच राहणार. ठीक आहे. त्यावेळेला सुद्धा जी काही लढाई झाली असेल, रावणाकडे पण धनुष्यबाण असेल, रामाकडे पण असेल, पण शेवटी विजय हा जसा रामायणामध्ये रामाचा झाला आणि 100
So today I have a bow and arrow which is real, you have a bow and arrow which is a symbol. Both Ram and Ravan both had bows and arrows. Eventually who won everybody knows.
नागरिकांना आणि मी तमाम अन्याय विरुद्ध जे पेटून उठलेले आहेत की अनेकांना हे मान्य नाहीये. हा अन्याय जो काही झालेला आहे, अत्याचार होतोय, लोकशाहीवरती अत्याचार होतोय. मी मागे एकदा असं म्हटलं होतं की हा छत्रपतींचा महाराष्ट्र आहे, अंध धृतराष्ट्र नाहीये. तो आपल्या डोळ्यात
This is Chhatrapati Shivaji's Maharashtra. This is not an Andha Dhritarashtra is what he's saying.
सर्वोच्च न्यायालयात तर जाणारच आहोत. आम्हाला खात्री आहे
We will move the court.
ह्याचा निकाल लागेलच. आणि दुसरी जी अपात्रतेची केस ही तिथे चालू आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये सुद्धा जर घटना मानून निर्णय लागला तर अनेक घटना तज्ञांनी सांगितलेले की निर्णय काय लागणार, 16 जण हे अपात्र होणार म्हणजे होणारच असं घटना तज्ञांचं मत आहे. हे मी आपल्याशी बोलताना मला आणखीन एका गोष्टीची आठवण करून द्यायची की गेले काही दिवस काही लोक म्हणजे त्याच्यात एक केंद्रीय लघु सूक्ष्म का असेना पण केंद्रीय मंत्री आहेत, त्यांनी सांगितलं होतं आपल्याला की द्या ब्रेकिंग न्यूज, धनुष्यबाण यांनाच मिळणार. हे कसं काय? म्हणजे हा काही
So the last few days senior voices have been come out and said
हे तर दिसतंय, कटकारस्थान होतंय तर दिसतंय, पण या कटामध्ये केवढ्या मोठ्या पातळीवरची लोक सामील झालेली आहेत हे सुद्धा आता जनतेला कळायला लागलेलं आहे. कारण आपले राज्याचे उपमुख्यमंत्री सुद्धा मध्ये म्हणाले होते की हे धनुष्यबाण यांनाच मिळणार. केंद्रीय मंत्री म्हणतात
So there are ministers, there are chief minister, former chief ministers, including the deputy chief minister, other people within the government who have come out and said that eventually this Dhanushban will go to Eknath Shinde only. So is it all a set game? Is it all a decided game?
तुम्ही आतापुरतं तुम्हाला वाटत असेल, आता तिकडे जल्लोष चालला असेल, आपली चोरी पचली म्हणून चोरांना आनंद झाला असेल. शेवटी चोर तो चोर असतो.
So right now there are celebrations on the other side. The thieves are celebrating their victory, saying that their thievery has worked, but eventually the truth will catch up.
हे सत्य आहे. त्याच्यामुळे
The truth is that the real Dhanushban remains with me,
लवकरात लवकर आम्ही जाणार
and the people will, we will go to the people.
धनुष्यबाण त्यांनी चोरल्याचा आनंद त्यांना मिळू द्या.
They can relish and they can revel for a short period of time. Their revelry will not last for long. The Dhanushban will come back to us. We will fight, and we'll also go to the people.
की शिवसैनिकांनो, शिवसेना प्रेमीनो,
So Uddhav Thackeray is saying he'll take the fight to the Supreme Court. There is a court hearing on Tuesday too. Will they move this entire against the Election Commission? Move court against the Election Commission? They said they will move court. He's also said he'll go back to the people, and he says the real Dhanushban is with me. It is there in the puja room of Balasaheb, and I've done puja with it today. I hold it in my hand. Eknath Shinde and his camp now have the symbol. I have the real Dhanushban. Eventually, let's see who wins. That's what Uddhav Thackeray has come out and said. We will let the people decide. We will also go to the courts. And he's also said that this all looks like a fixed match altogether. These are the allegations coming in from Uddhav Thackeray. We're going to take a very, very short break here on The Right Stand. Plenty more coming up. Stay with us.
There are Chinese naval ships also operating, there are Chinese warships, there are Chinese research vessels, Chinese fishing boats in large numbers.
All right, first let's get you that exclusive interview with the Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar on the threat of the Chinese Navy in the Indian Ocean region.
We, as the resident naval power in this region, we keep track of all the activities that are happening. There are Chinese naval ships also operating. There are Chinese warships. There are Chinese research vessels, Chinese fishing boats in large numbers, and the prosperity at sea is dependent upon peace, tranquility, our ability to use the oceans in a free, open, and in compliance with the rule of law and so on. So that is what we try to achieve, and it is something which cannot be achieved just by one navy alone. It has to be done in cooperation and collaboration as well as coordination with all the navies in the region.
So the presence of China's People's Liberation Army Navy in the Indian Ocean has been growing steadily. The deployment of submarines along with survey and hydrographic ships has become a regular feature since 2017. That's when the PLAN top naval survey ship, the type 636A hydrographic survey ship, was surveying the waters off the coast of the Indian Ocean. In 2018, the PLAN's modern type 625C Xi'an-3 oceanographic survey ship surveyed the Makran Trench, this is in the Persian Gulf. That same year, the Xiangyang Hong-10 was deployed in the Indian Ocean region. Since 2019, Chinese survey ships like the Xiangyang Hong-3 have surveyed the deep waters of the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. China has also deployed a fleet of underwater drones in the Indian Ocean region, which can be used for military applications to get better sonar performance of Chinese submarines, as well as to improve their detection capabilities. So, how exactly do these Chinese submarines enter the Indian Ocean region? Typically, they use the Malacca, the Lombok, or the Sunda Straits to reach the Indian Ocean. The Sunda Straits are very shallow, and the active presence of fishing vessels makes it rather difficult to navigate these waters. The Lombok Strait is deep enough for submarines to proceed in their normal mode of navigation. And when it comes to the Malacca Straits, of course, Chinese submarines have to navigate on the surface to ensure navigation safety. It is also the busiest trade route connecting Europe to Asia, so that is a factor as well. Now, incidents of Chinese spy vessels in Indian waters has become a routine affair in the last few years. In November last year, the Yuan Wang 6 had entered the Indian Ocean just days before India was to conduct a ballistic missile test from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In August of last year, the Yuan Wang 5 was spotted in the China-leased Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. This led to a direct spat between New Delhi and Colombo. The Yuan Wang class of ships are used to track satellites and intercontinental ballistic missile launches. In January of 2021, a Chinese survey ship named Xiangyang Hong-3 was also seen operating in the Indian Ocean. Now, China has become more and more assertive about its national and maritime security interests in the Indian Ocean region. The deployment of such ships highlights scant Chinese respect for peace in international waters. China believes that it needs to keep a watch on the activities of India in the Indian Ocean because it is a major regional player in this part of the world as well. China thinks that its interests lie in protecting the geo-economic architecture created as a result of its Belt and Road Initiative, in which these sea lanes are important. The People's Liberation Army Navy is also known to patrol the Indian Ocean as part of Beijing's Far Seas protection strategy. Routine patrols are also undertaken on the pretext of anti-piracy missions. Now, no navy has grown as rapidly as the Chinese Navy in recent times. So how does India stack up against the PLA Navy? When it comes to number of personnel, the Indian Navy has a little over 140,000, whereas the Chinese have over 300,000. In terms of fleet strength, the Indian Navy has just a shade under 300 warships. China has more than 700. The Indian Navy has 18 submarines as of right now, whereas the Chinese Navy has more than 3 times that. When it comes to aircraft carriers, both navies have 2 each. The Indian Navy has 11 destroyers and the Chinese have 50. But it's not just India. China has been showing its high-handed behavior with other navies as well, and not just in the Indian Ocean region. In 2012, China took control of the Scarborough Shoal That's a disputed territory claimed by both China and the Philippines. This was after a massive standoff with the Philippines Navy. In 2014, a Chinese oil rig was placed in waters claimed by Vietnam. It led to a confrontation between Chinese and Vietnamese fishing vessels. In 2016, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel rammed into a Vietnamese fishing boat in disputed waters, leading to protests from the Vietnamese government. In 2018, a Chinese naval ship entered Indonesian waters without permission, leading to a diplomatic protest. China has also increased its military presence around Taiwan, which it considers to be a renegade province. And joining me now is Professor Brahmachalani. He's a strategic affairs expert and also a very close China watcher. I want to first ask you about what the Navy... Back on the right stand with the latest on the Pak economic crisis. Here's a CNN News 18 mega exclusive. Pakistan is on the verge of bankruptcy after the IMF team left without signing the bailout staff level agreement. Now, CNN News 18 has learned that Pakistan is quite literally bankrupt. Only $3 billion as foreign reserves left, in fact less than that now. Pakistan's pending letter of credit orders have reached almost 15,000. There is also a major shortage of life-saving drugs in the country. Sources are also telling your channel that Pakistan has no plans as of now to address the stipulations of the IMF and will fail in an upcoming second review. So far, there is no plan for a Ramadan package. The UAE, Saudi Arabia and China have already told Pakistan that economic help can be extended if it sorts out matters with the IMF. The UAE has also told Pakistan not to interfere in Kashmir and Israel issues. This is what sources are telling your channel. The allies are dumping Pakistan one by one. Dost na raha, ladies and gentlemen, for Pakistan, including the powerhouses of the Muslim world. China, first up, has refused to trade with Pakistan and wants advance payments. Afghanistan is already in a skirmish with Pakistan. Setback 3. The Taliban regime is actually deliberating on stopping coal and dry fruit supplies to its neighbor. Setback 4. While Turkey is still grappling with the earthquake devastation, it has said it can extend no immediate help. Qatar has told Pakistan that it can only help in trade and not on any other issues. The 6th setback. Azerbaijan has told Pakistan that it can only provide backing in the United Nations and nothing more. The 7th setback. Malaysia has refused to help as it doesn't appear to trust Pakistan anymore. The 8th setback. Saudi Arabia has told Pakistan that its Muslim card won't work and that Bharat has a larger Muslim population. Meanwhile, reeling under the economic hardship, this is what the citizens of Pakistan are saying.
इस मुल्क के इतने घटिया हुक्मरान हैं, मैंने ऐसी नाअहल हुकूमत अपनी ज़िंदगी में आज तक नहीं देखी। इस नाअहल हुकूमत को इक़्तिदार में 10 माह गुजर चुके हैं और आवाम को रिलीफ देने के बजाय इन्होंने आवाम को महंगाई के बोझ तले दबा दिया है। इनका बस चलो तो ये आवाम की सांस लेने पर भी टैक्स लगा दें। मैं तो कहती हूँ इनको जहर दे देना चाहिए अपनी आवाम को, ताकि इनकी जान छूट जाए, हमारी भी जान छूट जाए, इनकी भी जान छूट जाए। हमारे से बाद में आज़ाद होने वाले मुल्क आज देखिए आप कहाँ खड़े हुए हैं। इंडिया कहाँ खड़ा हुआ है, बांग्लादेश देख लें, बांग्लादेश कहाँ हमसे आगे निकल गया, और ये मुल्क देख लें तरक्की करने के बजाय ये नीचे चला जा रहा है।
लेकिन जी इस अब महंगाई ने पाकिस्तान में गरीब आदमी को इस कदर नुकसान पहुंचाया कि अब जैसे देखें कि खबरें चल रही थी कि आटा जो है वो पाकिस्तान में वो नायाब हो चुका है। तो इसी तरह पेट्रोल जैसे दिन ब दिन महंगा कर रहे हैं, हर 10-15 दिन बाद पता चलता है कि यार इतना पेट्रोल महंगा हो गया है। और हुकूमत की बात करें तो ये वही हुकूमत है जो महंगाई को ख़त्म करने के लिए जो है हुकूमत में आई थी, मगर इस हुकूमत ने आवाम को बिल्कुल कोई रिलीफ नहीं दिया।
देखें जी, महंगाई की सूरत हाल तो ये है कि जो सैलरीड क्लास है, ये जो तनख्वाहदार तबका है जो मेरी तरह है, पहले उसको मिडिल क्लास में गिना जाता था, लेकिन अब पाकिस्तान में 2 ही क्लासेस रह गई हैं, या अमीर हैं या गरीब हैं। जहाँ पे मैं 1000 रुपये के पेट्रोल में एक हफ़्ता दफ्तर आना जाना कर लेता था, अब वहाँ 1000 रुपये के पेट्रोल में मेरे 2 दिन भी नहीं गुजरते। थोड़ा सा आवाम को रिलीफ देना चाहिए कि आवाम का को ख्याल करें। पेट्रोल तो सिर्फ एक मिसाल है, पेट्रोल के साथ 1000 चीज़ें और मुंसलिक होती हैं, जिसमें रोज़मर्रा की अशियाएँ, खाने पीने की अशियाएँ, हर चीज़ महंगी होती है। तो इनको थोड़ा सा ख्याल करना चाहिए, तो थोड़ी आवाम पे मेहरबानी करें, को आवाम को भी सुख का सांस लेने दें।
मुझे हुकूमत की कुछ समझ नहीं आ रही। हुकूमत आए दिन क्या कहते हैं, बिजली के रेट, क्या कहते हैं पेट्रोल के रेट, दूसरी चीज़ें, ठीक है, जीना दुश्वार किया हुआ है। क्या कहते हैं, एक सैलरी वाला जिसकी 30,000 सैलरी है, ठीक है, अब उसका किराए का गाड़ा है, ठीक है, उसके 2 बच्चे हैं, बच्चों को किस तरह पढ़ाएगा, अपने लिए कुछ करे या बच्चों के लिए कुछ करे, फ्यूचर नज़र नहीं आ रहा, ठीक है, क्या करे। मुझे लगता है कि हमें ना अल्लाह पाक हमें इतनी ताकत दे, हम पाकिस्तान ही छोड़ के चले जाए, कहीं चले जाए, क्योंकि अब यहाँ पर पाकिस्तान में रहना ना बहुत ही मुश्किल हो गया है, ठीक है। मेरी तो यही दुआ है, अल्लाह पाक हुक्मरानों को क्या कहते हैं नेकी की हिदायत दे। अगर नेकी की हिदायत नहीं मिलती तो हमारी जान छोड़ दे, ठीक है, हमें तो सुकून का सांस लेने देना।
Now, big trouble coming, ladies and gentlemen. Just 2 days after jihadi tanzeems have come out and said that they're going to increase attacks in Pakistani soil, terrorists have ambushed the Karachi police office. The Karachi police chief office is under attack. Attackers have stormed the Karachi Chief Police building, office building. There is exchange of heavy firing that is still underway. Pakistan Rangers and the elite police force have reached. They have cordoned off the area, and according to incoming reports, hand grenades and automatic guns were used by no less than 8 terrorists who are currently present there. The firing has been reported again at the Karachi Police Office headquarters at the main Sher Faisal. Now, in a statement, the Sadar Police Station has said that it has come under attack. SHO PI Khalid Hussain Memon has informed that unknown accused attacked the Sadar Police Station in KPO, and firing is going on everywhere. Now, we've just got another update from our investigations editor Manoj Gupta that emergency has been declared at the Jinnah Hospital and Civil Hospital, and that the gunfire continues. We're given to understand that the terrorists have captured the 4th floor of the building, and the terrorists are armed with heavy weapons and grenades and explosives. There is huge amount of gunfire exchange that is also happening. That's the latest coming in from Karachi. So trouble only mounting and compounding from all corners for Pakistan. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Well, closer home, ladies and gentlemen. Closer home, we are going to be celebrating Shivratri, and that's over the weekend, especially tomorrow. Let's quickly try and understand which are the 12 Jyotirlings of our country and why Shiva is the most celebrated deity or god in our country. So first up, Kedarnath in Uttarakhand is considered to be the most difficult one to visit. One of the Char Dhams, located at a height of 3,584 meters in Uttarakhand, accessible only for 6 months in a year. One of the 275 Padal Petrasthalams, believed that it was built by the Pandavas and revived by Adi Shankaracharya. Kashi Vishwanath, Uttar Pradesh. Vishwanatha means ruler of the universe, popularly known as the Golden Temple because of the gold used in the plating of its spires and domes. Rebuilt in the 18th century by Rani Ahilyabai Holkar of Indore after Aurangzeb destroyed the previous temple. But it is also considered to be the oldest of the Shiva temples and is called the Adi Vishweshwar, and it finds a mention even in the Rig Veda. Then the Somnath temple in Gujarat, believed to be the first among the 12 Jyotirlingas. Somnath means Lord of the Soma or moon, an epithet for Shiva, a spot where Shiva appeared as a fiery column of light, rebuilt by Ravana in silver, by Krishna in wood, and by Bhimdev in stone. In 124 AD, Mahmud of Ghazni took away all the wealth of the Somnath temple, damaging it severely. Then you have Nageshwara in Gujarat. There is also the Baidyanath temple in Jharkhand. It's the 5th Jyotirlinga. Vaidya means doctor, from the fact that Lord Shiva cured Ravana. Millions of pilgrims visit to attend the Shravana Mela, inscripted in Shiv Puran as the Haritaki or the Ketaki wood. Then Mahakaleshwar in Madhya Pradesh, one of the 7 Mukti Sthals. The idol is known as Dakshina Murti, which means it's facing the south, believed to be the Swayambhu or born of itself. The present 5-storied structure was built by the Maratha general. 7th is Omkareshwar in Madhya Pradesh. The name Omkareshwar is based on the shape of the island, which appears to be Om. Omkareshwar means Lord of Omkara or the Lord of Om sound. Amreshwar, Omkareshwar, Science, or Immortal Lord and Lord of the Immortals or Devas. Then you have Bhimashankar in Maharashtra. There is Trimbakeshwar in Maharashtra at the foot of the Brahmagiri hill and is flanked by the hills of Nilgiri and Kalagiri. Three-faced linga embodying Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, constructed by the third Peshwa Bajirao, 1740 to 1760. Now, Krishneshwar in Maharashtra is the 10th one. It's also called the Ghushmeshwara or the Krishneshwara, constructed by Ahilyabai Holkar in Maratha style. Then there is Mallikarjuna in Andhra Pradesh, one of the 275 Padal Petrosalams that are amongst the greatest Lord Shiva temples in Asia. According to mythological stories, Shiva and Parvati stayed here. And then the 12th one is Ramanatha Swami temple in Tamil Nadu. Several beliefs about Mahashivratri celebration too. So, Mahashivratri marks the union of Shiva and Parvati on the 14th day of the dark fortnight in the month of Phagun. Hope you like that tip back into our culture and civilization. With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand. Brass Tacks with Saga.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks from Zaka Jacob. Billionaire investor George Soros, speaking at the Munich Security Conference, let out that Adani owes an explanation to his investors about the crash in his share prices. He also said that Modi cannot keep quiet either. He says that this will lead to a quote-unquote democratic revival in India. The BJP, of course, was quick to latch on to this, saying that Soros